the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Cameron. Amen.
Amen.
So, Avatar The Way of Water is the newest James Cameron film in 13 years since he's directed the movie. And guess what the last movie he made was? Avatar 1. So there's been a lot of hype, a lot of talk. You and me have talked back and forth about it. It's like, how the hell is this movie going to deliver? Is it going to do well? Is it even going to make enough money back to warrant the, 15 whatever sequels that James Cameron has planned? That's an exaggeration. He has a few good movies planned after this. Money aside, whatever money it makes at the box office, doesn't matter. Well, it does, but let's talk about just what we thought about it overall. I'm going to come right out the gate swinging. I really, honestly loved just about everything this movie had to offer. A few drawbacks given in the first act or so. There's a few things that did bother me in a sense of feeling like, ironically, with a 3-hour runtime, we could have expanded on a few things, but I'll get into that a little later. What did you think?
Overall, I actually liked it. It was actually a really solid film. I was very mixed on it. I'm going first. I mean, yeah, it's been 13 years. It's like, how can you come back after so long and totally surpass everything you did in the past? James Cameron delivered.
I know the first Avatar gets a bad rap for being a movie that's filled with great effects, but people often say it has too simplistic of a story. The story is generic. I feel like there's a difference between a simplistic story and bad story. I think Avatar is a simplistic story, but not a bad story whatsoever.
Not at all.
Yeah, and I think it's a timeless tale, and I do think Avatar The Way of Water continues in telling a timeless tale of accepting culture, learning about different cultures, and accepting our place in how we affect those cultures. And I think this movie does a great job at springboarding off of what the first one established with that in a whole new way here, while still feeling familiar enough for Avatar fans of the first one to where you get kind of a mix of a bit of new story mixed with a bit of familiarity, especially when it comes to our villain in the movie. Which, at first I was mixed on, but again, that ends up coming around too. What makes this movie work most for me, right off, is the visual storytelling, and that goes beyond just visuals. I think the effects are fantastic, of course. I think everything looks great. More than just great. This stuff is, unseen. The effects in this movie, I forget I'm watching CGI at times, and I'm not exaggerating on that. Just the little details, like the little water droplets hanging off their hair. From, the difference between dry hair with a little bit of water compared to, a part of their arm, which is more wet. You could see those just little differences, and it's so well realized, and it adds layers and details to the story overall and the world that the movie is building. You don't just need dialogue to tell a story. Sorry for that long tangent, please.
No, I really agree. The way they crafted the world is so believable. You can see how much attention to detail and how many hours beyond hours were worked on pretty much every scene. But it's mostly the world. That's where their main focus was. And underwater looked fantastic. So beautiful. so captivating. I just love the visual. It's such a visual eye candy fest, pretty much.
Yeah, honestly, this is one of those movies where I feel spoiled as a fan of movies growing up in today's time. I feel like the fact that we overlook these visuals is a bit of a detriment because they deserve attention. It's not just the fact that, they're great visuals, old, and that's it. I don't think they're hollow, you know? You can see the passion, the sense of world building behind it all. So it doesn't come across as a cash grab. It doesn't come across like quickly computerized effect thrown into the movie in post to get it out to build to our next sequel in our franchise, you know? And this movie could easily run into the danger of doing that, given that James Cameron has several sequels planned out.
Backtrack what you were saying about our main antagonist. I was very mixed on it at first, and almost it does come around, but I guess I had my nitpicks with him. It's just his whole drive. His whole drive is, I guess, very simple, which isn't bad, but it just feels bland, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the kickstart of the villain's motivation in this movie, to keep it vague for people who may not know who it is going in, I was really surprised. You were really surprised.
Yeah.
Apparently this was announced who the villain was. I guess we just kept our head out of it because I had no idea. It ultimately worked for me. It comes across a bit of, that's redundant. That's a little bit sequel baity, you know? But I think overall what's cool is that they use the villain element of this movie to add layers to a character that was, I don't think, one note necessarily originally, but I appreciated the fact that this movie added even more layers to that character, to that dynamic, where they could have just had it be a generic return. Which it does fall a bit into that trap at first. I do think the movie does a good job at developing and building into something else by the end. But I agree with you. I think the startup is a little rushed, a little quick, and it's a little like, all right, well, I guess, Sky people.
Yeah,
that, you know.
it is very rushed. It's almost like certain scenes were just kind of cut out of the first act. I guess, crunch the girth of that down a little bit, because this is a lengthy movie. I was pretty tired afterwards.
Same.
But I was captivated. I was invested. Like I said, it's like, even though at slow moments we have in the film, or maybe just like repeats of certain things in the film, it's the world, everything about like the visuals of it just kept me into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think what's really cool is there's so much history behind the visuals. There's so much lore to be had that goes beyond the dialogue. But I also do like when we have our characters interacting, when we expand on Jake Sully and Nakira and their family. I thought this film really had a lot of depth there, and I thought that was really good. I thought the movie had a lot of great heart and soul. And that's where it was really excelling for me. By the third act, I cared so much about this family as a whole, not just Jake Sully and not just the characters we know from the first movie, but I loved everyone. I loved the kids. I loved Jake Sully. I loved Nakira. I loved the children. I also loved the family that we were getting to know, the water civilization. That whole dynamic and the way those two families interact with each other felt so real and so natural and so well realized in a way that I haven't seen in a while in more bigger modern blockbuster movies. Right now, the name of the game is superhero movies, superhero team-ups. Again, I don't hate comic book movies. I'm not one of those reviewers that says comic book movies are ruining society. I just do think we have large influx of them. Tangent aside, this felt so refreshing to just have a family that felt real and, relatable, but also have nothing to do with superheroes, not have to be it's not Josh Whedon style quips. It's not just building character through comedy. We're building character through action, through interaction, through what's unsaid, through what characters, the way they share glances with each other. All of that is taken into account here, and not a single beat is missed, in my opinion, both visually and with dialogue. I think I like this movie. Yeah, I feel like I'm going off, but what did you think of the characters?
I loved all the characters, especially with Nikita. You also see like the family's flaws as well. Not only their good side, or you realize that all these people are they're very human. I think they just nailed all of them in their performances. I mean, I was a little worried about what's our boy's name, Sam
Worthington.
Yeah, Sam Worthington's performance in it, because he hasn't been in anything for like so long, but I think they all nailed it. I was invested with these characters, which is kind of a hard thing to do with such a lengthy film. It got to me.
Everything felt like a naturalistic continuation of the first movie. Jake Sully in the first one, he's a soldier. He's someone who is used to battle. He's used to running that kind of situation. What happens when those soldiers end up being your kids? How do you deal with that? You can't just talk to them like you do your recruits. Those are your children. So I like seeing that conflict within Jake Sully. That conflict resonates through the whole family by the end, which is great, so everyone feels like a main character. This movie could have easily lost, and I could see a criticism from other people saying maybe this movie doesn't have a focus on a main lead. I would argue, though, that the focus is the family overall. It's not just Jake Sully this time, and once you watch it from that lens, you get a much better emotional investment and a much better experience out of it, to me. For my problems personally, I do think the first act is a bit choppy. That you were going to get a director's cut of this movie that's 4 hours, like the original Avatar did. I could be wrong, but I'm willing to bet that the first act would be where a lot of expansion would be. Or I just feel like there are things cut out, because it feels like we're just in one kind of setting and we're in one kind of certain place. All the characters are in a place mentally, and then suddenly, bam, 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 plot starts. And then it comes across a little redundant and quick at first. But then the movie kind of slows down and focuses up. But that's really all I had issues with, personally. What about you?
I mean, I just had some nitpick with main antagonists and certain characters, but not that much, honestly. Yeah, it's a pretty solid film. I liked it.
Yeah, honestly. I love this movie. It really hit me. I cried a few times, and I didn't expect that. I really didn't. And I'm not saying that as a detriment, like I was wanting to hate this movie. I just didn't expect it to hit me emotionally as much as it did and actually stick with me and affect me to that degree. I expected to be all inspired by all the visuals. I came away really caring about these characters, and I want an Avatar 3. I want it now. We're going to get it now? Probably. Are we going to be alive when we get it? I really hope so. We can enjoy these two while we have them. Avatar 1 is still good, by the way. I don't care. I really liked Avatar The Way of Water.
I really liked it overall. Thought it was great. Can't wait to see more, honestly. Have you seen Avatar and Way of the Water?
Do you guys know The Way of the Water? Go check out Avatar The Way of Water, then watch it again. 6 hours of Avatar. Let's do it. You want to go do it?
Let's do it.
Let's go!